Yep, Lotus now makes an SUV. Can you believe it? And it's fully electric. I think Colin Chapman would be spinning in his grave if he knew about this. I attended the media launch last week where we also got to sample the new Amaya fully electric sedan. But for now, we're going to talk about the Eletre. Now, there's 3 different versions you can get in Australia, or 3 different variants, including the base model, the S, and the R. The R is actually very interesting because it features a 905 horsepower twin motor electric setup, 675 kilowatts, which is just insane. 0 to 100 claimed in 2.9 seconds, making it one of the quickest making it one of the quickest SUVs outright currently on sale in Australia. For this event, we only got to sample the S variant, which has been designed to package together all of the interesting and luxurious features, so you don't have to option them up with the base model. But both the base and the S feature a 450 kilowatt twin motor setup, 112 kilowatt hour battery. Sorry, I'm just checking the specs here, which makes it, one of the biggest batteries fitted to a production car at the moment. One of the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest. A range of 535 kilometers, which is pretty good for an EV. And then, 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds. We got to have a small drive, and I've got a POV coming up. It was only a 20-minute drive, so sorry I couldn't do anything more, and the road was less than inspiring. It was just sort of this little loop. It didn't have any nice twisty turns in it really, but I did manage to do a quick 0 to 100 run for you. I didn't bother putting the V-Box on because it wasn't completely flat and just not the right environment to do full performance testing, or at least proper time testing. I'll try and book one in the future to do a full test later on. But first impressions, the technology is awesome. The interior is it's a stunning interior. It is overtaken by a huge touchscreen on the dash, which is a little bit of a shame because I don't feel like that's a Lotus thing, traditionally anyway. Most of the controls are through that touchscreen. It is a nice touchscreen with beautiful graphics, but again, I don't feel like it just matches well with the Lotus brand. But it is a revamped brand, I guess. It's now owned, or mostly owned, by Geely Automotive or Geely Holding. They have a 51% stake. That's a Chinese company. They also own like Volvo and other brands. But one drawback that I think is very important and just not right is the weight. It weighs 2,550 kilograms in S form, and that's just way too heavy for a sports SUV, let alone a Lotus. Like, a Lotus has to be light. That was their whole philosophy when it started out, and for decades, up until pretty much this came along. You can feel it on the road. It does feel very solid. But as I said, we didn't go on a nice winding road. There's a few corners and things, but it does feel very solid, and you can feel through the steering that it wants to take on corners and so on. But I think this is going to be a hard sell for Lotus. It's going to get a few new age buyers, cashed up, obviously, new age buyers that maybe don't really know the brand and they just want something that's exotic and different. And if you go for the R, that's obviously extremely quick. But traditional Lotus fans, I don't think are going to like this. Maybe there's the super rich or super wealthy that are just trying to get the whole complete Lotus collection. They're going to buy one of these too, I guess. But I could think of a lot of other more desirable vehicles for. So the S starts from $229,999. The R starts from $279,999, and the base model is $199,999. The S model is definitely the best value, I guess, if you can word it that way, but because it just comes with all the luxuries, but it doesn't have the 900 horsepower electric motor. But 230 grand, I could think of so many other cars that I would rather get before buying one of these. It's not a true driver's car in my opinion. There's no noise for starters, obviously. The drive modes are pretty clever though, as you'll see in the POV. I tried to describe a few of them, but when you put it into the raciest mode, the regen will actually not be so aggressive because, when you go around corners and things, you want to do left foot braking. You don't want the regen to automatically cut in and slow you down suddenly. So it kind of just lets you roll a little bit, which is good. It's a nice little trick there. But overall, it's just not as engaging as some of the petrol models, and even the Lamborghini Urus is awesome to drive, monstrous power, even though it's not as powerful as this R model. It just feels more entertaining to drive. Let me know what you think though in the comments below. Would you buy a $230,000 fully electric Lotus SUV? I think the design is interesting. It definitely stands out on the road. The new sedan is absolutely stunning. It looks like a concept car when you're driving along, something out of the future. So it definitely has that going for it. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on VFACTS to see how those sales are ticking along in the future. We'll also try to book one in for a full performance test as soon as we can. In the meantime, here is the quick POV test drive video.
First impressions are that it feels very exotic. It doesn't feel like a normal run-of-the-mill SUV. I love the interior presentation, all the detailing around the dash and the touchscreen on the passenger side as well, and these awesome speaker grills. It's a 22 speaker sound system in here actually. You've got a few different drive modes which you access via pulling the right paddle shifter. So we've got Tour, Sport, straight away the throttle response sharpened up a bit, and the side bolsters on the seats wrapped me around a bit more, hugged me in a bit more. And we've also got a individual mode so you can configure your different settings. An off-road mode, although I don't think you'd be going that far off-road in this with the low profile tyres, but still you can hit the dirt or something like that, go to a camping spot. And you've also got a range mode just to try and prolong the range if you're just cruising along. So I'll put it back into the sport mode. The ride is magnificent. It really soaks up these bumps very nicely. It feels refined and quiet. It's not crashing about or anything like that. I can feel that it does have big rims. You can got that sort of echoey sound as it goes over the bump, but the ride through my pants, through the seat, is really nice. It's comfortable, even in sport mode. I love the fact that it's just got a thin instrument cluster too. Just your vital information there, that's it. No huge screen. You can just keep your eye on the road. It does have head-up display. I'm not sure if that's showing on camera, but you can turn it off just by pushing this little button on the steering wheel. I'll pull over and we can do a 0 to 100 run, but I'll just show you the roll-on acceleration. So I'm in sport mode. Full throttle. Yeah, it definitely picks up really quickly. This is targeting the likes of the Porsche Cayenne and even those that are considering downsizing from a Lamborghini Urus or Bentley Bentayga. This is fully electric, of course, so none of the rivals, or those specific rivals, are offered in electric form. So if you are after something electric, then this is pretty much the only option in this sort of upper end SUV class. I can't get over the ride quality. I'll just put it back into tour mode just to see. Yeah, it's even more comfortable. I'm surprised. You know, you think Lotus and you think hardcore sports car, but this is actually very much a Grand Tourer. Even over that bump just then, there's a bit of a dip and it just nicely settled. Okay, we'll do a 0 to 100 along here. We've got enough room, I think. It's quite a quick vehicle. That's 100. It really picks up after you sort of go past 60, 70 kilometers an hour. It just starts to really haul. Off the mark, it's not so sudden. I'll see if there's a launch control program that maybe jolts it a bit more off the mark, but we'll do a full performance test later on as well. I'll see what it can do. But yeah, awesome top end speed. It just keeps building momentum. In terms of the handling, it feels sporty. I mean, the roads we're driving on today aren't all that spirited, but I get the feeling this would be very nice to drive on a winding road up in the mountains. You can play around with the regen power as well. So in sport mode, it actually backs off a bit, because if you're doing sporty driving, sometimes you don't want the brake regen or the automatic regen to happen when you're coming around a corner, for example, like this. Back off a little bit. You don't want sudden regen. You might want it to just coast a little bit. So in sport mode, the regen automatically just slackens off a bit, but you can go through and make it stronger using the paddle shifters on the left. You've got a little display here. You can turn it off completely too, so it just rolls and coasts along. I think overall it's great that Lotus is one of the first, or pretty much the first to the market with a fully electric SUV of this caliber. The technology on the face of it just is absolutely awesome. That's 22 speaker sound system, the 800 volt electrical architecture, and the fact that it offers 350 kilowatt charging is very impressive. I guess Lotus is kind of becoming a premium luxury brand by offering something like this. You know, in the 80s and 90s, Lotus was just about track cars, lightweight track cars. They still try to focus on that as well. They don't want to lose their heritage too much, but this is definitely, you know, talking to a Lotus employee 30 years ago and saying, you're going to launch this 2-ton SUV fully electric. You know, they'll be very upset, I guess. But in order to continue operating, you know, it has to fulfill market demands. And the market wants SUVs and electric vehicles, especially with ever-tightening emissions laws coming in pretty much all around the world, including in Australia. I guess the kind of person that would buy this is someone that wants a vehicle that's exotic, very unique, exclusive, but still has a very heavy performance undertone. The brand also has awesome bragging rights too down at the pub. So if you say to someone, I've got a Lotus, straight away they know you're a serious driving enthusiast.